Yes. The book Penguins, the book titled Penguins Look Up at the Sky. Let's imagine the penguin. I can watch the penguin on zoo. They are all look up in the sky. By Japanese author Yaino Toma, tells of a 12-year-old boy who wants to become a NASA engineer. He tried to build an inflatable rocket and launch it into the sky, but failed numerous times. However, he is not afraid of failure and strives to achieve his dream of shooting rocket into the sky. The flightless penguin looks up at the sky every day. The penguin seems to think that one day he will be able to fly, then jump hard and dive into the sea. Friends, what do you see when you look up at the sky? On the earth, where will you be? Let me ask you another question. When was the last time you looked up at the sky with your back straight? We all live under the same sky. Some people often have the time to look up at the sky, while others live without ever looking up at the sky. Some people don't have time to look up at the sky because they are busy. When you look up at the sky, what do you see? Usually we see blue sky, clouds, sun, and moon, and stars. One day I once saw a rainbow rising behind the steep of our church tower on a rainy afternoon. Since our ancestors, human beings have thought that the sky is a place we can see, but we cannot reach to the sky. So many shaman, religious people have said with one voice that there will be some unknown spiritual realm in the sky. So, from a religious point of view, human beings believe that heaven is in the sky. Do you believe it? Heaven is in the sky? Of course, this is not the right view by the Christian faith, actually. Because we find in Luke chapter 17, verse 20 to 21, what Jesus said about the kingdom of God. I want to read it. Once Jesus was asked by the Pharisees that the kingdom of God was coming, and he answered, the kingdom of God is not coming with things that can be observed. Nor will they say, look, here it is, or there it is. For in fact, the kingdom of God is among you. The kingdom of God is among us. Jesus tells us that we must build the kingdom of God. We must build the kingdom of God together in our home, at church, and the workplace with our neighbors. One of the stereotypes we Christians have is that we think of heaven as a place we go when we die. Of course, when we eventually die, we are going back to God. We are going back to God. However, the Bible clearly tells us that we must build the kingdom of God wherever we are. Our actions show the result of our faith. When we have faith, what do we say with our lips as evidence of the faith? What do we do with our hands and feet? It matters what we claim with our mind and our heart. All these aspects of the life are important faith acts that make the kingdom of God among us. In 1968, on the morning of the first Sunday in space, Armstrong, the first astronaut to stand on the moon, the first message sent to the earth was Psalm chapter 8, verse 1. O Lord, our Lord, how majesty is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory in the heaven. Armstrong ascended into the sky and even reached to the moon. However, he could not see what the people say from the sky and the space. However, his confession was clear, very clear. He had no choice but to accept and believe in the greatness of God through all the revelation of nature that God made. In today's text, book of James, chapter 3, we are talking about how we should live from the heavenly point of view and the earthly point of view. And James encourages us to seek wisdom from above. I want to share a funny but terrifying story. A light aircraft with a pilot and 3 passengers on board broken down. There were 3 passengers, a space scientist, an older man, and a student aboard. The pilot says, I can't die here because I'm going to be promoted to a jet flight soon. And everything on board is mine. There are 3 parachutes here. One I am going to use. And the pilot disappeared with the parachute. And this time the scientist says, I am the smartest and wisest person in my country. So my death is a huge loss. I must use the next parachute. Then without looking back, he quickly jumps. The older man, who looked at the 2 escaped first and said to the student aboard, Son, the one left is for you to use. It's okay because I live enough to live. The student then replied, Sir, we both live. The wise man earlier took my backpack, not cash. Even I, we choose and act with our own wisdom. But there are times when we make foolish decisions or get the wrong results. At the same time, we realize that we lack wisdom, and sometimes we realize that the wisdom we have is wrong. Especially today. There is too much information from the media and the internet, so it is necessary to distinguish well what is important, what is real, and what is useful, and what is beneficial to us. Therefore, it is wisdom that cannot but be emphasized more and more. When we think we have wisdom by our own thoughts, we live with our own choices, say certain things, do certain actions, make certain plans, and form relationship with people. Wisdom is so important in our lives. But the question is, what kind of wisdom do we have? Regardless of how much or how little we have. That is what James is telling us today. Today, Apostle James asked the following question in verse 13 of the text. Who is wise and understanding among you? Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness born of wisdom. James is setting up an opportunity for someone to show the genuineness of their wisdom. He is telling us that wisdom is not merely intellectual knowledge. It also involves accompanying behavior. The wisdom that comes from God will be seen in our good conduct. The part of this conduct is gentleness. What's that? Gentleness. Sometimes we may think that if we are rude or rough or intimidating, that somehow makes us powerful, or it somehow makes us persuasive. You can strong and be gentle. You can be a leader and be humble. You can be a mover and shaker while not running over other people. Gentleness means that we are confident in the strength that God has given us. And we don't need to intimidate people to feel strong. So, good conduct and gentleness is a sign of true wisdom. To act with the gentleness of wisdom means using the power of wisdom to do good in our lives. This is the wisdom that James speaks of. Wisdom practiced in humility is the right recognition of the one's unworthiness before God and is manifested in humility of love for our neighbors. So a summary of James' words is as follows. Are you wise? Then you must prove that wise with your life. You must prove wise in your life. Because you are the one who has faith, James contrasts two different forms of the wisdom so that we can check with which wisdom we have. It shows us two forms of wisdom, just like drawing two pictures with different colors of paint on the white paper. Looking at the two wisdoms that James draws, I would like to ponder how you resemble yourself. It is verses 14 to 15. Let's remember, it is the form of wisdom from earthly word. But if you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not be boastful and false to the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, devilish. It is the first form of the wisdom. The wisdom that the James describes in verses 14 to 15 does not come from above, but from below. That means it is not from heaven, but from earth. They do not come from God, but from evil, devil. People with this worldly wisdom live according to their own desires. The desire of the flesh. It is an ambition to go to a higher position. It is a selfish mind and self-centered thinking. There are many more evil things hidden in this world under the fake name of wisdom. So what should we look for? I want to share the second form of the wisdom. It is a real one. Verses 17 to 18 of today's text tells us about some of the wisdom persons, some of a wise person's virtues. But the wisdom from above is the first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy, and good fruits, without a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace for those who make peace. First of all, James reminds us that this wisdom is from above. That is, it is from God. We should be thankful to God that He gives us true wisdom. It is a very good gift for us. Then James gives us these characteristics of wisdom from above. Now, let us check the wisdom that comes from above together. When I read each word, please read the definition together. Are you ready? Okay. Pure.
True wisdom is not tainted by evil, but pure.
Peace-loving.
True wisdom does not look for trouble, but looks for peace.
Gentle.
It looks to be helpful to others, not harmful.
Complaint.
True wisdom does not try to start arguments, but tries to be reasonable and compliant.
Full of mercy.
True wisdom leads us to the people of mercy, quick to forgive, quick to overlook offense.
Full of good fruits.
True wisdom produces godliness in us.
Unwavering.
True wisdom sticks to the truth and the correct ways without wavering.
Without pretense.
True wisdom does not put on a false front, but is genuine all of the time.
Yes, right. Thank you so much. Most of all, it is guided both in the beginning and throughout by peace. We are to be people of peace, and we are to produce even more peace. Peace should guide us in the wisdom process. A person with a true wisdom is a person who sows peace. Wisdom is not just learning. It is not just knowledge. It is behavior and life changing. Does your wisdom possess these things? If not, it's not from God. James wants us to know true wisdom. He wants us to experience the wisdom from God and see its superiority over the wisdom offered by the world. Dear brothers and sisters, I hope you find the wisdom of heaven and live with it. And I want you to show evidence of your faith in your life. Friends, if you lack faith or cannot find the wisdom, ask God for the wisdom. The book of James chapter 1 verse 5 gives us strength as follows. I want to read it. Listen carefully. If any of you is lacking in wisdom, ask God, who gives to you all generosity and ungrudgingly, and it will be given you. I'm blessing for all of you who listen today. Truly seek wisdom from heaven and want to act by faith. And all God's people say, Amen.